One of the titles of Baha'u'llah is that he is the Prince of Peace, that he will bring peace and unity into the world. The fundamental principle of Baha'u'llah's teaching is the oneness and unity of humanity. In the Baha'i writings, there are two peace that is mentioned in it. The lesser peace and the most great peace. With the lesser peace, we have nothing to do with this peace, and it's also known as the political peace. But the most great peace, that's our baby. That's a Baha'i baby. And this peace is already born, and it is our duty to nurture that peace so that it reaches maturity. Although we have nothing to do with the lesser peace, nevertheless Baha'u'llah had a plan of how that peace should come about. And that plan of Baha'u'llah has already been communicated to world leaders in Abdu'l-Baha's letters to an unofficial peace committee of the League of Nations that was known as the Committee of the Durable Peace in The Hague. In this letter of Abdu'l-Baha, he mentioned Baha'u'llah's plan of how the lesser peace should come about. And his plan is this, that the national assemblies of countries and nations, that is to say, the parliament, should elect 2 or 3 persons who are the choicest men of that nation and are well informed concerning international law and relation between governments, and aware of the essential need of the world of humanity this day. The number of these representatives should be in proportion to the number of the inhabitants of each nation. And these elected souls who are chosen by the National Assembly, that is the Parliament, must be confirmed by the upper house, the Congress, and the cabinet, and also by the president or the monarch. So these persons may be the elected one of their nations and the government. And from among these people are the members of the Supreme Tribunal will be elected. And all nations will thus have a share therein, for every one of these delegates is fully representative of his nation. And when the Supreme Tribunal gives a ruling on any international questions, either unanimously or by majority rules, there will be no longer any pretext for the plaintiff or ground of objection for the defendant. In case any of the governments or nations, in the execution of the irrefutable decision of the Supreme Tribunal, be negligent or dilatory, the rest of the nations will rise up against it, for all the nations and governments of the world are the supporters of this Supreme Tribunal. consider what a firm foundation this is. This is Baha'u'llah's plan of how that lesser peace could come about, which was already been communicated to world leaders since that letter of Abdu'l-Baha to an unofficial peace committee of the League of Nations that was called the Committee of the Durable Peace in The Hague. Now the most great peace, which is our baby, it's a Baha'i baby. It's already born, and it is our duty to nurture that baby so that it reaches maturity. In words of Abdu'l-Baha, that he counseled a highly placed official in the government of the United States of America. You can find these words of Abdu'l-Baha in Shoghi Effendi's Advent of Divine Justice in the last chapter with the heading The Destiny of America. In Abdu'l-Baha's words that he counseled a highly placed official in the government of the United States of America, which he said, you can best serve your country if you strive in your capacity as a citizen of the world to assist the eventual application of the principle of federalism that underlined the government of your own country to the relationship now existing between the peoples and nations of the world. These words of Abdu'l-Baha that he counseled a highly placed official in the government of the United States of America, Shoghi Effendi said, fired the imagination of America's tragically unappreciated president, and that is President Woodrow Wilson, whose high endeavor Abdu'l-Baha with his own pen acclaimed as signalizing the dawn of the most great peace. Not the dawn of the lesser peace, the dawn of the most great peace. Our baby is on its way to maturity. The most great peace, friends, is not a dream. It's not a wishful thinking. It's not a high aspiration that one day it will happen. It's a reality, and it's real. The high endeavors of President Woodrow Wilson. President Woodrow Wilson included principles that were clearly enunciated by Abdu'l-Baha in his discourses. In his 14 points peace proposal that he tabled in the League of Nations conference that he addressed in Paris, France in 1919. As Shoghi Effendi said, he was America's unappreciated president. When President Woodrow Wilson tabled his 14-point peace proposal in the League of Nations conference that he addressed in Paris, France in 1919, he was rejected outright. One commentator called the president a fuzzy dreamer. Another commentator said of the president's proposal that it is of more theological rather than intellectual. Interesting to note, the president's proposal was rejected by the world, but Abdu'l-Baha recognized his high endeavors as signalizing the dawn of the most great peace. Although that peace proposal was rejected about 100 years ago, The power of that peace proposal lives on, still exists today in America's political circle, a peace system that is called Wilsonianism. In an article about President Woodrow Wilson and President George Bush in the Times magazine, the 30th of December 2002 issue of the Time magazine. It says in that article, in a January 2000 article in Foreign Affairs, Condoleezza Rice, who would become Bush National Security Advisor, sniffed with obvious disapproval that there were strong echoes of Wilsonian thoughts in the Clinton administration. That is when she was in opposition to President Clinton. But everything changed in that administration after September 11th. And this short statement from that same article. In the wake of September 11th, President George Bush has embraced a muscular Wilsonianism. The hand of the cause, Ruhia Khanum said in her priceless pearl that she asked Shoghi Effendi, I assume it was a casual conversation. When does he think the most great peace could happen? And he said it could happen in the later centuries of Baha'u'llah's dispensation. Baha'u'llah's dispensation is for 1,000 years, not to confuse with the Baha'i cycle that Baha'u'llah brought that will last 500,000 years. The dispensation is for 1,000 years and a new manifestation will come, though he will be under the shadow of the universal manifestation of this cycle, and that is Baha'u'llah. I don't know what is your interpretation of later centuries of 1,000 years, but to me the last 300 years, or year 700 in the Baha'i calendar. We are only 180 years into our calendar. We still have another 520 years to go. It seems like a very long time. We can do better than that. We can bring the most great peace before the mid-century of Baha'u'llah's dispensation. The sooner, if we arise and spread this healing message of Baha'u'llah to all the inhabitants of the world, the sooner we spread this message, the sooner we'll bring the most great peace. Let's make a pledge that we will bring the most great peace before the mid-century of Baha'u'llah's dispensation. Ruhia Khanum said of Shoghi Effendi that he was a sad and broken man all his life. He was barely 24 when the weight of the work of the faith was on his shoulder. She said Shoghi Effendi had permanent black half circles under his eyes, a sign of a sad and broken man. Let's make a pledge that will bring the most great peace before the mid-century of Baha'u'llah's dispensation. If we make that pledge and we arise and spread this message to all inhabitants of the world, and we fulfill that pledge, I'm pretty sure that will put a big smile on Shoghi Effendi's sad face. Thank you, and I wish you well. Whaftai lava, manuelo whafongfong mai mula whasausaunga Samoa, so i fua.